at this plate. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. Can't wait. Let's go.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you so much, however it is that you are watching us this morning, whether it be live on Facebook, YouTube, or over on Roku TV because of Northeast Streaming Sports. We appreciate the fact that you are making us part of your morning. I am Chris, and that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing well. Welcome, everybody. Can't wait to get started.
So, Mo, prime time. Kirk Cousins got himself a victory last night as the Minnesota Vikings upset the San Francisco 49ers. Mo, we should have known this was very much in line with the way the rest of our picks went this past week. So we shouldn't have been silly and put all of our faith in the 49ers last night. One of us should have realized that an upset was going to be brewing. Obviously, not what you are looking for if you are a fan of the San Francisco 49ers. Before we break it down, Mo, what is your initial reaction to the game last night?
If you're a fan of the Niners, you're disappointed. I watched the game, and I remember you and I discussing the game yesterday beforehand and saying it was going to be a good game, right? The Vikings were going to show up. They were going to make it difficult. It's a home game. They were going to have momentum. They're trying to win. They're struggling. And they came out, and they really did just punch the Niners in the face. And I thought they kept the Niners defense, for the most part, off balance most of the football game by spreading them out and attacking them.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, a little bit of an emergence last night of Addison, the wide receiver of the Vikings. He had a terrific night, 124 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. Hawkinson also had a big night for himself. Remember, Minnesota did this without wide receiver number 1 available, Justin Jefferson, who is out right now due to injury. Mo, for me, one of the biggest moments of the game came with 16 seconds to play in the first half. I see you're frustrated about this. Minnesota's on their own 40-yard line. San Francisco dials up basically their version of a zero blitz. And it is a ball that, and in all honesty, it for a moment looked like it was going to be intercepted. It was definitely in the hands of the Niners defender. Unfortunately, Addison was able to wrestle it away from him, and there wasn't anyone else behind them as a result. And he basically just walked to the end zone 60 yards. So, Mo, let's take a look at that play first. A lot of Niners fans are upset. 16 seconds to go. Why are you calling a zero blitz in that situation? Just play back. They still, 25-ish yards away from even being in field goal range, much less anything else. 16 seconds, just play not to give up the big play before the end of the half. Where do you sit on that?
And Steve Wilks is a good defensive coordinator. He really is. But how you master your craft, whether you're an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, is situational football. There's 16 seconds left. They're at their own 40. And yes, they're driving. They're trying to get into field goal range. Worst case scenario, they may get into field goal range. But why would you dial up a zero cover blitz? I don't understand that, because you're opening yourself up to the big play. And to be fair, and I want to be fair, if Chadarius Davis holds on to the football, he actually does intercept the ball. He plays it right. He undercuts the route perfectly, but Addison rips the football away from him and goes 60 yards. So, in defense of Wilks, you can say maybe he dialed up the perfect play and it just wasn't executed properly, right? But I just thought that one play, it was kind of the theme of the football game, right? Whenever the Niners needed a big play, it seemed like the Vikings had an answer for whatever they were trying to do. And I'm not going to blame that one play on Steve Wilks. If you watch the entirety of the game, the truth is the Niners defense finally did get it in gear. They slowed down Minnesota's offense, but it was too late. They had built up a lead. They were playing catch up. And I don't think the Niners offense is built to play catch up.
Speaking of the 49ers offense, it was a situation where it required coming from behind, as they were behind the majority of the game. So we got to see a different version of Brock Purdy. And Mo, as you know, in the NFL, quarterbacks look different in different situations. When you are playing with the lead the majority of the game, you are going to look one way because you have the lead. Things are comfortable. When you are consistently playing behind one or two scores, you are going to look a little different because it's a little more tense. It's a little more anxious. You need to score now as opposed to just holding serve because you're winning the game. And as a result, we did see a different version of Brock Purdy last night, and it wasn't necessarily a great thing. I think we've said on this show numerous times that we think Brock Purdy has the ability to be a good quarterback. I don't think either of us think that, he is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. We think that he situationally could struggle at times, and last night was a situation, and he struggled. His accuracy was not there at times last night. His decision-making was not there at times last night, and I understand that Deebo Samuel was not there. I understand that things look a little different on your offense when you're missing someone like a Deebo. I know that 49ers fans were very quick to talk about why their offense looked the way it looked because of who wasn't there. But I will argue this, Mona, and I've made this argument many times before here on the morning show. Deebo is not your number one on offense. He's not. He's not. Deebo may be, your Swiss Army knife as far as what you can use him for. But if you look at the offensive production, it's Ayuk and it's CMC. And they were both there last night, and they were both kind of doing their thing. And shout out to the Minnesota Vikings defense because CMC did not go off last night. He had a couple of explosive plays, but for the most part, he was held in check. And for the most part, the Vikings defense really made this a Purdy, go out there and win this game. Go out there and make a few big clutch throws when you need to. And we're not going to give up the 80-yard run to Christian McCaffrey. We're not going to do that. We're going to make you throw yourself into winning this game. And he had some opportunities, Mo, but in the end, he just couldn't capitalize. And this isn't going to be a bash Brock Purdy situation because you win games, you lose games, but you have to look at it for what it is. They're now 5-2.
Right.
We've seen a couple of situations consecutively. It always looks worse when you do it back to back, Mo. Let's be honest. If we were talking week 2 and week 7, and they were 5 weeks apart, we may not feel the same way. But because they're back to back weeks, and now back to back weeks, we look at Brock Purdy and we say, he had a chance. He had a chance to bring him down there in the end, and seal the victory. And last week was different. Last week, he got him into field goal range, and the kicker missed the field goal. This week, we turned the ball over. So, that's not getting closer. That's getting a little further away from where you want to be. So I'm not going to sit here and kill Brock Purdy, but I'm going to sit here and say clearly, there are some limitations from what we thought there were going to be, and there are, and that's fair. And clearly, this team, in order to be successful, needs to be firing on all cylinders. And they don't have a huge margin for error. And what I mean by that, Mo, is maybe the defense can only give up 17 points, and giving up 22 or 24 sometimes might be too much. Maybe this isn't an offense that if your defense gives up 22 or 23, you're going to at least get 24 out of. 24 is a lot for an offense to score in the NFL. And maybe this isn't what this offense is going to give you game in and game out. It will sometimes, absolutely. But maybe you need a defensive effort that's closer to 16 or 17 for you to really be like, yeah, we probably got this.
And they also have to play a clean football game, right? So against Cleveland, turn the ball over. Last night, Purdy, 2 picks. CMC, he fumbled the ball. He lost the fumble. So that also impacts your defense. I think it's a balanced team. Nobody would question that the 49ers are a balanced team, but I do think you hit on a good point that they have to all be hitting on all cylinders. Everybody's got to be doing or playing their role. And to put Purdy in an adverse situation, I think it's good to a degree because he is your quarterback. And there's going to come a time, let's face it, there's going to come a time, maybe in the postseason, when you need him to make a great throw, when you need him to make something happen that's not there. And I'm not going to bash him. I think he is a good quarterback. I think he's a capable quarterback. But right now, today, he hasn't really shown that he can throw you into a win, right? Like there are some quarterbacks, we're losing, we're in trouble. I can make something happen. I can see a play. I can hit a seam route that wasn't there. He's not in that position yet or that stage in his career. And I think they're not trying to put him in that position. But these kind of losses, they can go one way or another. They can make him stronger. They can make him more motivated. They can make him a better player because he can get in the film room and look and see what he did wrong. So I'm not going to bash him. I'm going to give credit to a guy that doesn't get enough credit. I thought Kirk Cousins was on his game last night. I thought Kirk Cousins spread them out, attacked them, and he got pretty much every mismatch he wanted. When Addison wasn't beating them on crossing routes, Hawkinson was he was finding every opening in the zone. And I think much like Philadelphia, if you want to attack that defense, you attack them by spreading them out. If there's a weakness in the Niners defense, their secondary is not a dominant secondary. They're a solid secondary, but there's not one guy in that secondary that can just lock guys down. So I'm going to give credit to the Vikings. It's a disappointing loss for the Niners, but they weren't going to go undefeated, right? They're 5-2. I thought the Niners were a 12 or 13 win team. So look, guess what, Niner fans? They're going to lose a couple of more games down the road as well. You tip your hat to the Vikings. They were the better team. And all that talk about maybe moving off from Kirk Cousins, that's changed, right? All of a sudden, they're back in the hunt in their own division. And people are realizing, wow, Kirk Cousins is a really good quarterback, which he always was.
It's funny how a couple of weeks kind of shift that perspective, isn't it, Mo? And like you just said, last night, the Vikings were the better team. What happens 12 weeks from now, right? We don't know. Maybe if both these teams find themselves in the playoffs, it's a different situation 12 weeks from now. Playoff games and seasons are not lost in week 7 primetime games. That's just not the way it works. Obviously, you want to win every game out there on your schedule, but that's not how it lines up. In the chat this morning, Gene said that Brian Flores needs to be a friggin' head coach, man. Gene, we've already seen this story, actually. We've seen Brian Flores, the head coach. He was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Let me remind you of that. And let me tell you, the Dolphins had a great defense while he was the head coach of the Dolphins. And offensively, they were a disaster. And a lot of that has been contributed to him. If you have not seen the interview that Tua Tagovailoa did this week, which I thought, Mo, if you haven't seen it, it was very respectful because he was talking about, obviously, his time with Mike McDaniel and his time with Brian Flores in the previous regime. It wasn't a positive experience for him. And he didn't mention Flores by name. And, you know, he didn't necessarily, I mean, he talked about how uncomfortable it was at times. He talked about his struggles being himself and, you know, finding success in the offense and finding success as a quarterback and finding success as a young player. And he talked about how he was handcuffed, and he talked about how he was treated, and he talked about the environment that, you know, as a rookie and as a first and second year quarterback that he was put in and supposed to find success in. And it wasn't a good situation. And maybe if Brian Flores receives a second opportunity, there are things that he would change. And there are, you know, maybe he learned from that as a first year head coach. And there were things he would do over. But again, I look at this and, Gene, Gene, you always come in the chat and you want to put the fact that I'm a Dolphins fan first, sir. And I will tell you once again, it has nothing to do with it. Facts are facts. The Dolphins had a great defense, and I'm not going to say great. The Dolphins had a top 15 defense with Brian Flores. All right, he did his job as a defensive-minded coach. He made the defense respectable. He did that. He turned that around right away. Unfortunately, like many defensive head coaches, he struggled on the offensive side. And look at the difference from the year he walked out to the year that Mike McDaniel came in with Tua Tagovailoa. Tua always had that. That was always there with Tua. Mike McDaniel found a way to unlock that. Brian Flores couldn't.
And two things can be true, right?
Right. Two things can absolutely be true.
He is a very good young coach, but he's probably, as a young coach, he needs to work better on relations as well, right? Like look, as a coach in today's football, relationships do matter. You have to be able to connect some way to your very best players. And as you said, defensive-minded coach, he probably had a completely different attitude his first trip as a head coach. And I'm sure if he could do things differently at his next stop, his next opportunity, I'm sure he's going to approach it differently. Because yes, it's a job, it's professional, but the relationships that you grow, that you make or don't make, it does impact your football team.
And in a quarterback-driven league, Flores is going to get another opportunity. What he's doing with the Minnesota Vikings defense is terrific. And there are Dolphins from the defensive side that will vouch for him. And I'm sure there's guys on the offensive side that will vouch for him as well. But like you said, Mo, it's a learning experience. And look at how defensive-minded head coaches have done in the league recently. It hasn't been great. So if he does get a second opportunity as a head coach, which again, I think he will, and I think he deserves a second opportunity, he's going to need to approach it differently than he did in Miami. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it works when you are a defensive-minded head coach. It doesn't always come as easy, and it isn't always exactly the way that you would want to do things, but that's just the world we're living in the NFL right now. And even the greats, look at Bill Belichick. He is a defensive-minded head coach with a middle-of-the-road quarterback in Mac Jones. We've seen Mac Jones have success in the league. We've seen him be put in really, really bad spots because of his defensive-minded head coach. And Bill Belichick is one of the greatest head coaches of all time. Okay. So, two things can absolutely 100% be right at the same time. And I agree that Flores deserves a second opportunity. I just hope that if he gets that opportunity, he approaches things differently than he did in Miami when it comes to handling your quarterback, whether it be a young quarterback or an older quarterback. Because if he doesn't, Mo, I don't think his second opportunity will be much better than his first.
Agreed. It really is about just learning from the first experience and trying to generate and cultivate those relationships, especially in a QB-driven league. You got to have some kind of relationship with QB1, get to know what he's about, find out his strengths, and then set him up for success. And so I'm not down on Brian Flores. I'm with you. It was a learning experience, and I'm sure if he could do it differently, he would have.
And Gene said his first opportunity was a success. Gene, we can quantify success different ways. I'll quantify it as this. He's not there anymore. So clearly it wasn't that much of a success. You can argue that he had a winning record. You can argue that he helped turn things around in Miami. But at the end of the day, he didn't get the organization to where the person who hired him wanted the organization to be. So, we can split hairs all we want, but I wouldn't sit here and call it the greatest of success because the man got fired. And you can argue for various reasons why he was fired or why he wasn't fired. But I will tell you right now, one of the biggest reasons that he was fired was the way he treated Tua and the way he spoke to his young quarterback. And that is well documented. And again, in a quarterback-driven league, there are very few head coaches who are going to treat young quarterbacks the way that Brian Flores documented by Tua and other players and other coaches the way that he treated his young quarterback and come out successfully on the other side. And at the end of the day, despite all the other quarterbacks that the Miami Dolphins flirted with, Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, believe me, there were plenty, Mo, that the Dolphins flirted with during that period.
You dodged that bullet.
It's a huge bullet there. Despite all of that, at the end of the day, the organization had a decision to make. Do we keep Brian, who clearly does not get along with Tua, or do we keep Tua, who clearly doesn't get along with Brian? They had a choice to make. And despite flirting with all those other quarterbacks and trying to get Deshaun Watson and tampering with Tom Brady, the organization made the choice to keep Tua. They let Brian Flores go. And Mo, I have to say, at least for Tua's career, it's been a pretty successful choice for them. And Brian had a chance to go somewhere else, and he's doing great with Minnesota, and he is going to get another opportunity at some point to be a head coach in the NFL. And hopefully it's successful for him, and hopefully he learned from the things that didn't go well in Miami, and his next stop is a successful stop. But right now, Mo, we are going to pivot to Major League Baseball. JG wasn't here yesterday, but JG is here with us today. And man, oh man, we have a lot to talk about in the world of Major League Baseball with the playoffs. The World Series is right around the corner. JG, how are you this morning?
Welcome, JG.
Hey, good morning, guys. Doing good. How are y'all?
Hanging in there.
Hey, we are happy. It's a good day when JG is here on the morning show with us. JG, let's start with the Texas Rangers. A little bit of surprise there. They pull it out, and they pull it out in a big way. They club the heck out of the Houston Astros in Game 7, pushing their way into the World Series and pushing Dusty Baker out of Major League Baseball as he hangs it up with the Houston Astros. So let's start with Dusty. JG, thoughts on Baker hanging it up and ending his tenure with the Astros?
I mean, what an amazing career that Dusty has had. I mean, the amount of work that he's put in throughout the decades he's been in this game as a manager and even beyond that. It's just amazing to see. It's one that you, as a fan, you have to appreciate. Much like Bruce Bochy. I mean, you're talking about two managers in that series, Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker, who have ties with the Giants, with the San Francisco Giants, both managers, and having both of them having success. I know Dusty didn't get the World Series win when he was there in San Francisco in 2002 against the Angels. But, I mean, for the amount of work that was put in his time there, Bruce Bochy, same thing. I mean, you're talking about two Hall of Fame caliber managers that you had in this series. It was just amazing, and like as a fan to watch and see how they worked and how they played a human chess match as a baseball manager. It was absolutely remarkable. But Dusty Baker, he deserves this. He deserves to go, on the sunset. He got his World Series ring last year. He was able to get the success that he's been so deserved to have, and finally get that cherry on top. And I know he wanted another one this year, and they were close. I mean, obviously, Game 7 in the championship series. But I mean, it's just, as a fan, you have to appreciate baseball guys, baseball lifers like Dusty Baker for what he's put into this game, for what he sacrificed for this game, and be able to finally earn the success that he got last year in 2022. It's absolutely remarkable. He deserves it, and he deserves to go out on his own terms, and that's what he's doing. And I mean, one of the outstanding, like I said, Hall of Fame manager. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and we should be seeing him in the Hall of Fame not too long from now.
JG, we've talked before about the impact of managers on teams in the sport of baseball. So kind of let's look into the crystal ball a little bit. The Astros make the push. They're on the brink of making the World Series this year. They had the successful season last year. Baker steps away. What does that do, if anything, as they bring in a new manager for next season? Obviously, the talent on this team is still going to be there. Obviously, coming into next season, they are still going to be projected to be a very successful baseball team. But is there going to be, in your opinion, any noticeable drop-off or ripple effect of someone with the ledger and with the success of a Dusty Baker not being there anymore. Because let's be honest, whether they go out and they bring someone in, that gets let go by another team, or they hire from within, whatever the case might be, it's not going to be someone that's going to match the ilk of a Dusty Baker. So it's going to be at least a little bit of a step down in that position. What do you see that impact being going into next season?
There'll be a transition, and that's what the front office is going to be looking to see is, finding a manager who steps in and fits the personality of the club. And that's kind of where things have changed in recent years now to what it used to be. Is you're bringing in a manager who's going to put their culture in together, going to bring the players that they want, and be able to say, this is my team, my system, my program. You're going to adhere to it. Today's game, the players are so, I won't use the word powerful, but because of the personalities that are there in players in this era, you have to find managers that can adhere to the personalities, and you have to be able to earn the buy-in of the players. And that's where you're going to look for somebody that keeps the culture together. Doesn't, you're not saying we need a Dusty Baker. We're not saying that. We're not even saying, Baker was not the same manager as AJ Hinch. When Hinch was manager of the Astros pre sign stealing scandal. But Baker came in, he understood, being in the game for so long, he understood the personality of the team. He goes, hey, look, I'm here to help you guys and continue to put you in a position, but you guys are the ones who are playing. You're the ones who are doing this together. I'm here just to continue the ride. I think at this point, you're not finding somebody who's going to continue the ride because that's already been done and you have enough veteran leadership to do so. It's more of now is, this is the personality culture. I need somebody who can keep that personality together and then enhance it to another level, because now there's some question marks. I know they're going to be, as you said, Houston Astros are going to be successful, so they're still going to be a good team. But now there's going to be some questions because it is still an older team. We saw older teams in 2023 struggle at times. We saw the Houston Astros struggle at times this season. So older teams now are starting to have a little thought in their head go, is this, with the new rules and everything, is this something that we have to figure out a little bit better? We're going to have to handle better. We're going to have to manage ourselves better. That's big question marks for this team. So finding somebody that can keep the culture together, but also enhance it to assure that they don't have us drop off that they essentially did have this year, and it doesn't continue into the future in 2024 and beyond.
Let's jump to the other side of things, JG, something that I did not think was going to happen. I did not think, one, that the Arizona Diamondbacks were going to make this a series and tie it up at 2. And specifically, I did not think that they stood a chance in Game 6 with Nola pitching the way that he had been pitching so far in these playoffs. I thought it was a nice story. Great that they made it to 6 games. I did not foresee them winning the game the other night. So here we are, Game 7. Can the Diamondbacks actually close this thing out and kind of write that fairy tale story and get themselves to the World Series? Or is this just a situation where at the end of the day, the veteran Philly squad that has the experience, that is battle tested, they're just going to come out at the end the way they should have, even though it took a little bit longer than they would have liked?
I mean, is there better 2 words than Game 7? I mean, oh my God, I get chills just hearing that word, just hearing those words together. It's very dynamic of what this series has become, because as you said, I said with you guys last week, I thought this was going to be done in 5. I did not see the Diamondbacks be able to, as you said, make it a series, and let alone push it to 7 games and even win a game in the bank. I mean, that in itself, I feel is a little bit, I won't say demoralizing to Philadelphia, but more of a shock that they lost Game 6, because that, again, we've seen and we've said it, and Gene and I go back and forth. That ballpark is electric. The fans are so into it right now, and they're on a high throughout this postseason. And you go in a young team. I said, this is a very young team, and they go into Game 6 and they figured it out and be able to beat Aaron Nola and beat the Phillies and be able to control. And that's the thing. You can't contain. You're not containing this lineup. You're controlling the lineup and be able to limit the damage of the big hitters that you have on that Phillies lineup. That's what they're doing so far, and that's why they've been able to at least make this a series. what the Diamondbacks are doing is with the opposite. I said this to a couple guys. They're doing the opposite. I'm gonna knock on my Braves here, and I know Gene will be very happy to hear me talk negative about my Braves right now. But what the Diamondbacks are doing is what the opposite of what the Braves did. The Diamondbacks, they're not a big power team, but they have some power. But what they do best is you have a lot of speed. You have speed up and down with Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Perdomo. You have these guys who can run, and all they're doing is just finding gaps, putting the ball in play, finding the ball in the gap, and getting singles, getting doubles, and getting timely hits that way. And then when they get a power shot, then their confidence is even higher at that. But they're not up there doing too much. Corbin Carroll is just a man on fire. Ketel Marte, if the Diamondbacks win the series, Ketel Marte is the NLCS MVP in my opinion, just because of how he's performed and the Phillies can't figure him out right now. So he has absolutely been on a tear throughout this series. He's helped them out with that walk-off hit. I think it was in Game 3. They're just putting the ball in play. They're not trying to do too much offensively, and they're able to get enough runs to let their pitching staff handle it. And the pitching staff's pitching really well. So can they do it one more time in Philadelphia? That's the biggest question. Can this young team handle the pressure of that ballpark? Not so much the team itself, but that stadium is going to be absolutely electric. And can the Diamondbacks ignore it and be able to just play their game still and not try to overdo what they need to do, not overcompensate what they do? And if they can do that, if they can play under control, they have a chance, because this is a bullpen game for Philadelphia too, and a bullpen that's been taxed pretty hard so far in this series. So if they can put some runs early on this on Suarez, knock him out early. If Suarez goes 5 innings, Philadelphia's going to win. If Suarez goes 5, I think that's a very big sign that Philadelphia will win this game. If Suarez ends up getting knocked out in 2 or 3 innings, that's a problem, because I don't know how many arms are rested enough. I know Alvarado didn't pitch last night, but how many arms are rested in that Phillies bullpen to at least do the job to keep Diamondbacks at bay? That's the big question.
I think in this is interesting, because in sports, and you know this, JG, a lot of times it's momentum swings, right? And I think going into Game 6, if you're the Phillies, you're feeling okay about things. You got Nola on the mound, you're playing at home, things are feeling fine for you. You lose Game 6, and now I feel like momentum has swung a little bit. Now, if you're the Phillies and you're looking at it, you're like, man, we can't lose to this team. We can't come into the playoffs knocking off the Braves again, which should have opened up our path to the World Series. We were huge favorites over the Diamondbacks. JG, if the Phillies lose this series, this has to be viewed as a failure of a season, because you beat the Braves already. Beating the Braves was supposed to lock in your spot in the World Series, and then all bets are off once you make the World Series. You know, they made the World Series last year as well. So once you get there, it is what it is. Obviously, you want to win it, but I think as a Phillies fan, once you beat the Braves, you almost felt like it was a lock. We're going back to the World Series. Let's just get there. Let's see who we play. Is it going to be Houston? Is it going to be Texas? Let's see what happens. But if you don't get to the World Series and you drop it to the Diamondbacks in 7, JG, that has to be considered a failure.
Absolutely. Because that was the whole point of their message they were having this postseason, was this is the revenge year. 2023 is revenge. We're gonna have revenge against the Astros in the World Series. We're gonna win the World Series. And if you don't make it to the World Series, when as you said, and I said it for the entire postseason when it was Braves Phillies, the winner of Braves Phillies was going to win the World Series. And now we're to the point of 1 game away of seeing that not be the case. And I think with the mindset that it was World Series or bust, I believe that's a fair assessment, that this was a World Series or bust year for Philadelphia because of how close they were last year. And you have guys you have a better roster right now than what you did last year. I know, and being able to have guys like Turner added, and pitching is just absolutely phenomenal at times here and there. And if you don't make it to the World Series, what's their message next year? Revenge again? You can only play the revenge card so many times before it starts getting played out, and you realize that's not the case anymore. You let it slip. Astros, you could say Astros, beat them, and they could be like, man, yeah, we got to get revenge. We got to be able to do this. And that can't be the case this year. You were the favorite. The Astros were the favorite in the World Series last year. you're the favorite this year to do so, and now you're falling short if you lose to the Diamondbacks. Now, if you win against Diamondbacks and you go to World Series, hey, then you keep the message going and you keep pushing, and then you're, like I said, you have probably a really good series with the Rangers and Phillies in that aspect. But you got to be able to do the job now. You have to, otherwise, as the point is, it's a very disappointing end to the season. Much like, again, my Braves, we were the favorites. We were the clear-cut betting odds favorites. We lost. Yeah, disappointment season. Even though it was a great season, it was a very disappointing season. Same thing for Philadelphia right now. They don't make it to the World Series. Great season, great run, but you fell short, and it's disappointment.
Regardless of who wins this game, JG, whoever wins it is going to be on an emotional high coming into the World Series. If you are the Texas Rangers, who would you prefer to see? Who do you think Texas matches up better with in a potential 7-game series?
It's very interesting how the matchups are, because the Diamondbacks and Phillies are very similar in ways, but they're very different too. And I think with the pitching that Philadelphia does have, and it's more high-profile names, and so we're seeing good pitching from Arizona. I'm not going to take anything away. Kelly's pitched really well. Fott's pitching tonight, I believe. You still have Zach Gallen. That he hasn't had a great series against Philadelphia, but he's still there. So the pitching matchup is you can look at it and say how it is for both sides. If I'm the Rangers, I'm almost wanting the Diamondbacks. I think, again, a team that, like Philadelphia, that has power in the lineup, that can match power for power, is going to be a difficult task for the Rangers. Whereas Arizona, it's more contact-based, and they've already beaten teams that are contact-based hitters, like Baltimore. Baltimore was not a big power team, but they were able to outslug Baltimore in the division series. You have the Astros, power team, but still some good contact hitters. They're outslugging the Astros. So I think if you have the Diamondbacks and Rangers, I think that's where it's favorable to the Rangers, because they'll outslug them. That is their MO right now, is they'll just out-hit and outslug and drive in runs left and right. Philadelphia possesses the same ability, and I think that'd be a tougher with better pitching. I think as far as with Wheeler, and I know Nola pitched last night. It wasn't a great outing, but Nola's pitched really well this postseason. That those two starting pitchers can give problems to the Rangers hitters, and they'll be able to make it a tougher series. So if I'm the Rangers, the better matchup, I believe, just because of how their offensive production is being done, would be Arizona, because you can outslug and out-hit them, whereas Philadelphia has the hitters capable to match and even outslug you for the Texas Rangers.
JG, pleasure as always having you here on the morning show talking baseball. Thank you for coming on this morning, and we'll see you later on this week.
Thanks for the knowledge, JG.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, Mo, let's take a quick break. On the other side of our break, we are going to break down the rest of the games that we did not get to yesterday from week 7 of the NFL action. And then, Mo, we're going to talk basketball, because the NBA season is here and we got some things to discuss. And we will get to all of that on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. It is Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network.
What's up, everybody? It's Control Simpson with Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, where we're going to cover all things breaking news, sports related. We're going to preview games, and we're also going to give you our reaction to the games that have happened before. You can catch us on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you miss us there, no worries. You can also catch us on Roku with Northeast Streaming Sports Productions from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hey, and listen, if you're not into all sports and just NFL, we have Sideline to Sideline. That's on Thursday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. We'll break down the NFL week, the Thursday night game, and we'll preview all NFL action.
And if you're like me and college football is your fix, tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Coast to Coast College Football pregame show. We'll review the previous week's action, the day's biggest games. We'll give you our pick'ems, and we'll even give you some teams that are on upset alert.
And if you don't catch us live, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do also have a YouTube station, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back to Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you to all of you, actually, who are joining us this morning, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube or over on Roku TV with Northeast Streaming Sports. Mo, a couple of games we didn't touch on yesterday. Let's touch on them this morning. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. What a shocking week it was. Let me tell you, Mo, I would not have, if you look at the way the Patriots played the last 2 weeks, Mo, there is, I don't care if it's a division game. There is no reason in the world that Patriots team in the position that it's been in the last 2 weeks, looking absolutely abysmal on offense, giving up 30 plus points a game on defense the last few weeks, should have lost to Buffalo. Beaten Buffalo, Mo. Like, what are the Buffalo Bills doing?
Just when you think Buffalo has pulled themselves together and they're making strides, they kind of fall back into old habits. We've talked about this over and over again, how when their offense is balanced, when they make it less about Josh Allen being Superman and just Josh Allen distributing the football to all his playmakers, they're a much better offense. And they regressed. When you look at the game, when you look at how many runs they had, Josh Allen had like 17 of them. Why is he running that much in a football game? That doesn't make sense. And then you get the Josh Allen that's forcing the ball downfield. Again, Josh Allen trying to be Superman. Josh Allen trying to force the ball to Stephon Diggs. Offensively, when they don't spread it out, when they don't commit to the run, and the run doesn't always have to be the rush game gets you 100, 150 yards. It can just be to keep the defense and the pass rush honest. It can just be to throw them a curveball. They just looked disinterested. I mean, I just thought, what a terrible performance when you're coming into that game. You know the situation. I know it's a division game, but you're clearly the better football team, and the Patriots just outplayed you. And what really got me was if you told me the Patriots defense, for whatever reason, and it's a capable defense, slowed the Bills offense down, that's a possibility. But if you told me the Patriots offense was going to be able to outplay and move the ball up and down the field against that defense, against the Bills defense, I would have said no way. Not the way you saw that offense. You saw the offense that I saw. Their run game, I think they average less than 3.5 yards per carry. Like they don't do anything on the ground. Their passing game is one of the worst in football. And they won on both sides, not just the line of scrimmage, but Mac Jones for that day, Mac Jones looked like a top 10 quarterback.
No, 100%. And listen, me and Buffalo Bill fans, we don't see eye to eye, Mo. We don't get along. I don't understand jumping through tables. You just look like a bunch of idiots to me, and I have no problem sitting here telling you that. So we very rarely, have conversations on the same level, Buffalo Bill fan and I. But let's be honest, Buffalo Bill fan, you were really hyped. You were really hyped after you beat Miami. And what have you done since then? You fell behind in the first half to the Jaguars. You fell behind in the first half to the New York Giants. You fell behind in the first half to the New England Patriots. 3 teams that on paper you easily should have beat. 3 teams that on paper you were the favorite to beat. 3 slow starts in a row. You were only able to overcome one of them. And let's be honest, Mo, if the Giants just didn't bumble that last few plays before the half in that game, they probably lose to the Giants as well. Right. So, you've gone 1-2 in these 3 games. You probably should have went 0-3. But when you play incompetent teams, sometimes they gift you stuff. And that's what the New York Giants did. So it is what it is. But things aren't looking great for Buffalo right now. And you can sit here and say, and I've heard this too from Buffalo fan, well, who have the Dolphins played? Buffalo. Who are you playing? Because look at your last 3 opponents. You should have beat all of them. And you're 1-2. You've had other give-me games in there. You played the Commanders. You played the Raiders. Come on now, Buffalo. And upcoming, you got some tough ones coming up. Now, you got the Bucks coming up on Thursday. You shouldn't have a huge issue with Tampa Bay. But it's a short week, and Thursday night football games are weird. And let's be honest, Buffalo, you haven't really gotten up for your last 3 games against teams that you were favored against that you should have easily handled. So I'm a little concerned about your Thursday night game against the Bucs because you haven't looked too good recently. And after the Bucs game, you got the Bengals. And the Bengals are playing a lot better football, Mo. So the Bengals are coming to play. So not only do you have a short week, but you got a big game coming up the following week. This has trap game written all over it for Buffalo. So I'm a little concerned about that. And then we're only a couple weeks away from that stretch in that Buffalo schedule that's a little scary. And that stretch is the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Cowboys. That's a tough 3 games.
That's a tough run.
That's a tough run right there. So, and they finished that with the Chargers. We can't say much about the Chargers today, Mo, but
from week to week,
those 3 games, those are big games. So I think Buffalo has all the ability to fix it. But man, Mo, when you don't get many layups on the NFL schedule, but when you get the games you're supposed to win, you need to at least win those games.
I think that's why it's so tough, right? There's 17 games in the NFL season, and we overanalyze to a point, but we overanalyze because every game does matter. Every game does matter. So when a team like the Niners lose or a team like the Eagles lose, we don't think it's the end of the year for them, but every game does matter. And when you look at Buffalo and how tight that race will be for your division with the Dolphins and the Jets, for whatever reason, they're not out of it. They're still alive.
Not out
right?
of it. They're still alive.
They're very much alive. Every game matters. We're in week 7, and I honestly don't know the Buffalo Bills' offensive identity other than Josh Allen is really talented, and he can make some amazing plays playing Superman. At the same time, if you put everything on his shoulders and you make him play Superman, eventually he will make a bad play doing too much. I don't understand how they don't get that simple, basic formula that they have to balance out their offense. And he's a terrific, talented player, but the best version of Buffalo will actually be less of him and more of the others.
Mo, brace yourself. I'm about to do something that I haven't done very much over the last 2 months. I'm going to say something nice about the New York Jets. I know, shock and awe. If you look, the Jets are 3-3, okay? We said their first 6 games this season, absolutely brutal. This was when they had Aaron Rodgers. We said they need to get through those first 6 games at 500. If they can get through those first 6 games at 500, things are going to start to look okay. They don't have Aaron Rodgers. They got through those first 6 games at 500. And Mo, I have to be honest, things are going to look okay for the next few weeks. The Jets have the Giants this week. That is a winnable football game, even with Zach Wilson as your quarterback. And the Jets, I haven't seen the line. They might be the favorite in that game. That might be a game they're even favored to win. If they take care of the Giants, Mo, they're 4-3 now. They have a winning record. Next up, they have the Chargers. That could also be a winnable game. I think the Chargers have a way better offense, but look at how terrible the Chargers have been playing the past couple of weeks, coupled with the Jets defense. They may not be favored in that game, but that's going to be a winnable game. Then you look at the week after that, and you have the Raiders. That's a winnable game. Who knows who's even going to be the quarterback for the Raiders in that game? Jimmy G is having his issues. The backup's having his issues. That's another 3 games in a row, Mo, that are winnable.
What you're saying is the Jets can easily turn around and be 6-3.
You wouldn't be shocked if they win these next 3 games. The most shocking win of those 3 games would be the Chargers. Are you shocked if they beat the Chargers?
Not really, because the Chargers tend to beat themselves.
Correct. So now you're looking at a 6-3 Jets team, and they go and play Buffalo and Miami next. If you're 6-3 and you're playing the top 2 teams in your division, and at that point, who even knows if Buffalo is in second place?
Agreed.
So I'm just saying, all is not lost if you are a Jet fan. I still don't think Aaron Rodgers is coming back. I'm still not going to sit here and say that.
I don't either.
I'm not going to go that far, Mo, but I'm just saying, if you're sitting at 3-3, you have earned the opportunity to talk about how things are no longer doom and gloom, and the possibility is there.
and how things have lined up for you. And I think everything you said is spot on. The only thing that I would push back on a little bit is, even with all those winnable games, that also comes in hand with Zach Wilson playing a clean game.
Oh, 100%.
Because if Zach Wilson is more like normal Zach Wilson, then everything's out the window. That changes everything. So he's got to play a clean game, meaning no turnovers, no fumbles, no timely interceptions. If he can play a clean game and stay within himself, because that defense will do their part. If he can just play a clean game, I'm with you. They have a very real shot at going 6-3.
Because, Mo, we can also look at this and be like, the Jets go 0-3 over these 3 games, and their defense kept them in, and they lost each game by less than 3 points, and Zach Wilson turned the ball over late in the fourth quarter in each of the 3 games. And we wouldn't be shocked about that either. So we would feel the same way. If that happened, we wouldn't be shocked. If they won all 3 games, we wouldn't be shocked. But the point is, and if you're a New York Jets fan, we're going to tell you right here, there's hope. There's hope, Mo.
Or as the line goes, so what we're saying is we're telling you there's a chance.
There is a chance. All right, Mo, let's spend our last few minutes here talking a little NBA basketball. Breaking news from yesterday. Giannis gets the bag. He signs a $186 million extension for 3 years. Mo, any issues with the deal or the money in the deal?
No, it's a smart deal on his part and on the Bucks' part. They want to keep him, obviously. By him signing this deal, he sets himself up to make more money down the road later. You know that with the NBA now, they actually have a 38 and over clause. So if he's around at that age, the opportunity to make more money is going to be there. I have to think that because he has an out in 2027, he will take the out. He'll still be 30, 31 years old, probably at the very peak of his prime, and he's going to probably get the biggest contract in NBA history.
Other news that came out yesterday was, and we've seen this coming, it's been trending in this direction, but now it looks to be pretty firm. There is not going to be a deal, at least during the season, reached between Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors. We've heard for weeks and months now that talks have been stalling. Talks have not been where Klay wants them to be. Golden State has, said the right things on their side of it. It's something we're working on. Eventually it's going to get done. But now it appears that, at least for the time being, talks are dead. They were very far apart in their negotiations. And at least for the time being, Mo, it appears that Klay Thompson is going to hit the open market next summer. So, Mo, do you see this? Because as someone who is a fan of the Golden State Warriors, I look at this and I say to myself, Golden State is on a different timetable. They're on Steph's timetable. Everything that Golden State does right now, 150% revolves around Steph Curry. Every decision they make has to do with Steph, and every decision they make over the next year or two has to do with Steph. So if I'm Golden State, I wouldn't lock Klay down for a long-term deal right now, because what's the benefit of it? Best case scenario, he plays great this season. The team is competitive. They make the playoffs. They're in the mix for either getting to the NBA Finals, or they win a couple of playoff series and, they look good. And then you add a little bit next season and you try to push it a little bit. That's like best case scenario, right? Well, actually, best case scenario is you win a title.
Yeah,
I think the realistic scenario is that you make the playoffs, you win a playoff series or two. You probably don't get to the NBA Finals, but you feel good coming out of it. You feel like you achieved more than you probably thought you were going to, and that people thought you were going to. That's best case scenario. If that's what you're looking at for best case scenario, and you're not looking at realistically being a championship contender, which if you really ask the people inside the building, they probably don't have themselves penciled in as that. Obviously, if it happens, great. I don't think they were penciled in a couple of years ago, to win the finals either, but they did. So unless that happens, what's the benefit of locking him up now? See what happens this season. See if he can stay healthy this season. See what he looks like this season, because it's not like Klay's been lights out the past couple of seasons to where you need to lock the man up. there's no rush here, Mo. Let it play out. Let's see how it unfolds. Let's have all the data that we need, and then we can make a decision, right or wrong.
No, I think it's the right decision. I think that Joe Lacob and company are going to take a look at what Klay does over the course of this season, right? If he comes out and he's playing lights out and him and Steph look like the Splash Brothers reunited all over again, they might very well lock him up and do a deal during the middle of the season. But I think they're doing the wait and see thing, which I think is the smart thing to do. When I look at the Golden State Warriors roster construction right now, they're a playoff team. There's no denying they're going to be in the playoffs. The real question is, do they have enough to win a title? When I look at the roster, I think they're just shy because I think they're missing some size. They're small, and it will hurt them against the bigger teams. It'll hurt them for sure against the defending champions. It'll hurt them for sure against the Lakers. But like you said, everything is done on Steph's time. Everything is about Steph's prime, getting the most out of what's left in Steph Curry's prime, right? That team, because of Steph Curry, they have a puncher's chance all the time. And because Joe Lacob and that front office has been so good, I do believe at some point they will make a move. They will add a piece to make the Golden State Warriors title contenders this season.
And that's another thing. You need to have the flexibility, Mo, to do those types of things. And handcuffing yourself with giving Klay, and let's be honest, Klay wants a deal. Klay wants the bag. Klay's not sitting here being like, well, just sign me for a year. Like, just give me a year. No, Klay wants to get paid.
I think he's looking for a $140 million extension. Yeah. And look, if you could pay guys based off of what they've done for you, then he would get that $140 million, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But front offices have to anticipate and be more realistic, and they can't be sympathetic, right? They have to make smart moves. And look, I think could Klay get paid? He could. But this is a show and prove year for Klay. He's still got to show them that he can be that guy.
And Mo, the NBA is back, like we said. Nuggets and Lakers, Suns and the Golden State Warriors. Let's talk about the Nuggets and the Lakers first. Is it going to be the matchup that we have all thought it was going to be since the schedule came out? Are you expecting big things, or is it going to be one of those opening night letdowns because it looked great on paper, but the actual result of the game isn't going to quite be there?
Well, the game matters more to the Lakers. Let's be clear. The Nuggets swept them. They swept them. They dominated them. So it does matter to them. And for what it's worth, for whatever reason, there's been a development of somewhat of a rivalry, right? A lot of trash talking between these two teams. The coaches have both been very vocal. Mike Malone has said a lot of different things. So the bottom line is, if you're the Lakers, I expect the Lakers to come out and be the more aggressive team. They might even win the game. I hope it's a great game. But like you said, when you get your championship rings at halftime or right before the game, it is kind of a letdown. So hopefully this develops into a great first game of the season. We'll see.
And then the other side of that, we have the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. It'll be interesting to see what the Suns look like on the floor. It'll be interesting to see what Chris Paul looks like in a Golden State uniform and what that offense looks like when he is on the floor and in the game. Maybe a lot of feeling out process tonight. Maybe it's going to be a clunky at times for both of these teams. Who do you like between Golden State and Phoenix?
Game one, I'm going to go with Phoenix. It will be clunky, but just on raw talent, Bill, Booker, Durant, that's a lot for a first game. I think for that first game, I'm going to give the Suns the edge. It'll be interesting to see the interaction with Chris Paul and his former team because, great player, but he can be chippy.
He can 100% be chippy. All right, make sure you check out all of those things and make sure you come back tomorrow morning to hang out with us once again. Shout out to everyone that was in the chat this morning. Brett was in there. Gene was in there. Kyle and Key were in there. Freddie was in there at one point. Appreciate all the love. Mo, close us out, sir.
Thanks for everybody that's checking us out. Check out all the great content that we offer to you at Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
We'll be back here, same time, same place, right here tomorrow. It is Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. we'll see you in the morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, from Brooklyn.
Hey, you guys any